Well, welcome. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I am very excited and humbled that you chose to spend some of your valuable time here with us. I always try and make sure you get really great value, and today will absolutely not be an exception to that. We have the great pleasure of chatting today with Dr. Aumatma Simmons, and we're going to be talking about leading with silence, how deep listening unlocks feminine leadership. So, welcome, Aumatma. It's so good to have
Um,
you here.
Amazing to be here. Thank you so much, Cindy.
Yeah, and for those of you who may not know her, Dr. Simmons is a double board certified naturopathic endocrinologist, an intuitive leadership guide, and her career spanned nearly 2 decades. She began as a fertility expert, founded the Holistic Fertility Institute. She's trained hundreds of doctors. She's written a best-selling book and supported thousands of women and couples through natural approaches to conception. But her greatest breakthrough didn't come from her credentials or her clinical expertise. It came from silence, ironically. And then her lead with silence methodology was born, and she teaches leaders and especially women how to quiet mental noise. And goodness knows there's a lot of that so that they can access the wisdom that our bodies already hold, right? And make decisions that are rooted in clarity and intuition, which we seem to have lost track of, and authenticity. So I can't wait for this conversation today. And Mama, why don't we dig in? Like you've had an incredibly successful career as a doctor, an educator, fertility specialist, author, as I was just mentioning. What was
Yeah.
the moment that you realized that despite all the external success, that something deeper, if I could say, was calling you?
I feel like that it's always a deepening. So I think when I first started out, I remember as young as 18, I was like, oh, I want to run a free clinic, right? Like that was my vision at 18.
Yeah.
And that meant, okay, well, go to medical school and then do this and then do this. And then you do it and you're like, oh, that was good. And then you're like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
And then I feel like it's been deeper and deeper and deeper. And for the last 5 years or so, this nagging feeling that I've had that is how to reach the people that are in our world with the learnings and the offerings that I have been gaining through the work that I do. And I see it one on one. I see it in the people that we coach, but it really has been coming in strong of like, okay, what are you going to do with this? Right? Like for me, it feels like it's something so much bigger
Yeah.
that I just had to say yes to stepping into.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny, so parallel to my journey in many ways. Like, I had this successful career as a lawyer. I had a family, had gone from grew up in a low rate rental sort of income to, and had all this ostensible external success. But I always described, I felt this niggling dissatisfaction. And then, of course, we feel guilty about having it. And that's when I sort of stepped into this whole purpose thing now. And you talk about your breakthrough coming not from sort of speaking louder, which is what we're taught to do for
Yeah.
success, but actually listening deeper. So, what does that mean in your own journey and how
Yeah.
our listeners expect from that?
So I spend a bit of time in silence every day. I'm
Nice.
very grateful to get that time. And it was probably now about 17 years ago that I spent a year in silence.
Wow.
And that
Wow.
year, yeah, a total year, without saying anything, it was kind of weird to have an experience where you're not saying anything,
Yeah.
yet you're hearing so much. You're
Yeah.
not having a conversation with anyone. And that was one of the most profound experiences that I've had the opportunity to have.
Yeah.
And it just taught me so much. And it allowed me to really connect with my authentic, true
Yeah.
self. That now, like, of course, I would love to have another year in
Yeah.
silence, but it's
Yeah.
probably not going to happen for a long time. I have a kid who loves to talk and
Yeah.
will just talk to death. So it's really like, okay, how do I find the spaces
Yeah.
in my life to continue practicing?
Yeah.
But to, I think the how much we talk, and often we're like, I've been in tables, rooms
Yeah.
where it's important for you to speak up and be heard and say what you have on your mind or you're sharing ideas or whatever. And I've often found myself like holding quiet
Yeah.
for a lot longer than most people. And in reflection, I'm like, well, it adds value because someone is there listening
Yeah.
for what's the truth of what everyone is saying
Yeah.
and where does it resonate and how do we need to tweak it or show up differently because of what intuition we're
Yeah.
getting.
And then when you do speak, when you've been quiet, people are more likely to go, oh, Aumatma's weighing in here. Let's listen. But this is so ironic because the last person I interviewed actually had done a 22-day silent Buddhist retreat. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
"Wow." And I did not know. And a year, like that is impressive. And interesting because one of the things we were talking about is how it heightened your ability to listen to yourself, which we don't do often enough, right? To really
Yeah.
tap in to hear ourselves. And by the way, I love lead with silence. Like it's such a powerful phrase. I love that.
Yeah.
And in practical terms, what does leading with silence look like? Particularly for women who are used to, we're taught and conditioned that, it's the person who's talking. And Sheryl Sandberg, with all respect to her, but that whole lean in approach was like, okay, let's be more like the masculine energy that we've been trying to fight against. So,
Oh, thank you so much for calling that out. It is the feminine is in the being
yes.
and not necessarily in the doing.
Yeah.
So when we are in that energy of leaning in
Yeah.
and speaking up and showing up in the ways that our society expects,
Yep.
we are often in that masculine energy.
Yeah.
And the reason that this became relevant for me was because I see the downstream effect of being in our masculine
Yeah.
energy all the time,
Yeah.
right? So when I work with fertility couples, it's they're burnt out. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, why are they burnt out? They're working too hard. Okay, but why is that? And what happened? And every time I've dug into people's stories, it's the core of it is that we forgot
Yeah.
that we have a feminine energy
Yeah.
in us.
Yeah.
And men have that feminine energy
Yes.
too,
Yeah.
but we live in a world that acknowledges and prioritizes the masculine.
Yeah.
So even down to the 24-hour clock, which is what we run on in our society,
Yeah.
not the 28-day clock, which is our menstrual cycle,
Yes.
right? And there is this distinction between a 28-day versus a 24-hour because the feminine is the energy goes up and down throughout that 28-day cycle. It doesn't say consistent every
Yes.
single day.
Yeah.
So what we are expected in the workforce is this like produce, 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 produce.
Yeah.
And if you're not productive, something's wrong with you. And that's where your value is. And that's what we decide you're worth based on how much you're able to produce. But we really miss this breadth and depth that women hold
Yeah.
of the feminine.
Yeah.
And I think that all of the gifts are actually in that space.
Yes.
So not only do we get more burnt out because now we're living in an energy that's not aligned to us, but we're also feeling more distant from our spirit, from our
Yeah.
calling or our
Yeah.
purpose in the world because we're not embracing our
Yeah.
eternal feminine energy.
We are so aligned. I mean, ironically, what you've just beautifully articulated is exactly why I started on this mission about the art of feminine negotiation. And interestingly, and for our listeners, I would even take it a step further because definitely for women, absolutely, and also for men. I think the reason
Yes.
we're seeing such a divisive, unprecedented divisive world right now is
Yeah.
because we defined success based on that masculine model for so long that both men and women started stifling their feminine, and we're
Yes.
left with only this masculine energy and no counterbalancing,
Yeah.
bringing empathy and compassion and listening to each other, for God's sake, right? As opposed to being the one who wants to take up all the space in the room. So
Yeah.
now, so tell, and I think you've touched on it, but I think a lot of women in leadership and men too, but in particular, this pressure that was put, by that lean in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Got these high pressure careers, we're
Yeah.
struggling with burnout, we've got decision fatigue, just constant mental noise.
Yeah.
Tell us how, and maybe it's obvious, but I think for our listeners, because it's not a concept we hear about, how does silence interrupt that cycle?
Silence gives us the pause that we need to reflect and align or realign because we're always in alignment, out of alignment, in alignment, out of alignment. And you can't be perfect all the time, as
Yeah.
much as all of us women would like to be. So we're really like how to recenter into the truth of whatever it is that you're bringing into the world.
Yeah.
And I think that that really relies on us being able to be in silence and getting comfortable with that, right? Like we're so uncomfortable
Yeah.
with
It's true.
like, oh my God, someone has to talk.
Yeah.
We
Fill
can't
the
be silent.
silence.
We
Fill
can't,
the silence.
yeah. And it's like an uncomfortable feeling to just have silence.
Yeah.
And the funny story that I can share is that I spent that year in silence. And when I came back into the world, integrating back in, I literally would need to process words so much slower
Yeah.
than the normal. And so people would ask me something, and it would be like 30-second pause
Yeah.
before there was a response. And like the pressure that I felt with like, oh my God, I'm not talking. It's not okay. Everything's not okay. And but like really realizing that that period of time, and it was probably that lasted for about a year, honestly.
Yeah.
It took me a long
Yeah.
time to get to the point where someone could ask me a question and I'm back to like answering it in my normal pace, which is usually
Yeah.
fast. So for me, like the silence is how I recenter, reconnect, and refocus my energy to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And because I'm such a proponent of this like 28-day cycle to re-embrace our feminine energies,
Yes.
there's a period like during our menstrual cycle when we're actively bleeding, or with the first few days of a new moon for
Yeah.
women that are not cycling, is the perfect time to pause, slow down, reflect,
Yeah.
take stock, and really like do what you would with a season of winter, for example,
Yeah.
right? Everything slows down.
Yes.
That like quiet Christmas morning where there's nothing but snow on the ground, like that's the level of silence that we're trying to get to, but we want to do it in an active way.
Yeah.
So I do it at least every single day for 20, 30
Love
minutes
it.
if I can.
Yeah.
And but then like really integrating that silence into longer periods
Yeah.
during our menstrual phase or the new moon phase,
Yeah.
when we allow our mind to slow down enough, then we actually are open to what it needs to say.
Yeah.
And really like profound things still to this day that I'm like, just 2 days ago, I went into a silent meditation, came out of it with like the answer to this very interesting conundrum that we're in the startup that I'm working at
Yeah.
and founding. And we and I like messaged my co-founder like this 5 minute long voice memo, but it was after this moment of silence. It was like, oh, I know what we need to do and I know how we need to do it and I've got it.
Yeah.
And so for me, like so much of these answers or these like questions that we're dealing with, or how do I make my business run better, or whatever the question is,
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, it just is so much easier
Yeah.
when I'm able to be in that silence and get the answers that are beyond what my intellect can
Yeah.
create.
There's so much there. So let's take a second. I want to unpack some of that because I think it's so important and rarely talked about. And also for our listeners, recognize this takes some retraining. We are so conditioned to fill the spaces. And frankly, even when we have those moments alone, we grab our phone and we start scrolling or we put on the TV or whatever. We are not comfortable spending time with ourselves.
Mhm.
And I want to take a minute to just really let it settle and sort of put a pin for our listeners about this idea about pausing before we respond. And as a longtime lawyer, that took some retraining because we pounce, right? And I get it's a career thing. We pounce on
Objection.
and my one son, he processes things very differently and he takes a long time before he responds. And it was so awkward and I would jump in and it took some retraining and I have learned the value in sitting back, however long it takes him to let him think and process and respond. And it has profoundly changed our relationship. And it's allowed me to learn things as well. And the pause stops us from sometimes from giving trite answers or for biting back when maybe a little self-reflection would be appropriate. So I really want to invite our listeners to take a moment to breathe in the power of that, but also missed opportunities, right? When we're constantly running around trying to fill the space with garbage, Dr. Simmons was saying, if you allow yourself that silence daily, things will come to you, new ideas, new approaches, new opportunities in your life. So, and tied to that, I know one of your signature ideas is the 90-second reset. So is that
Yeah,
what we're just talking about?
that's exactly what I was just going to get into, which is that so many people, as they hear us, they're like, oh my God, I don't have 30 minutes every day, right? Like, I know you guys, I was in that place. Like, I've been there in periods of my life where I was just like, no, I can't sit still for that long. And in those moments, I was like, okay, well, if I can't do 30 minutes, can I do 10? Can I do 15? Can I do 5?
Yeah.
And what I came down to was like, I could do 90
Yeah.
seconds,
Everybody can
right?
do that.
Everyone can do 90 seconds. So, one of the practices that I find really useful is to have a hand over the heart and then the other one kind of over the womb space
Yeah.
or the belly, depending on like where you're trying to feel into,
Yeah.
and then just breathing.
Yeah.
And there's a really cool nervous system reset that is called box breathing.
Yes.
So you can do 5 to 6 seconds in, 6 seconds hold, 6 seconds out, 6 seconds
Yeah.
hold. And that box actually helps to reset our nervous system.
Yeah.
And then my intention with my hands is just to feel into my heart and feel into my womb wisdom, right? My intellect is on
Yeah.
fire all the time.
Yeah.
So using this time to like
Yeah.
ground the energy into the two parts that are not getting energy
Yeah.
and and then just being and allowing whatever needs to emerge to emerge.
Yeah.
And I've had experiences where I'm making big decisions and I don't have time to meditate about it. So I'll say, okay, I need 90 seconds, get out. I
Wow.
need like just
Yeah.
a minute and a half to be.
Yeah.
And I will often come out of that with like, oh no, this is like the absolute wrong move. Yet on paper, it looks like all the right things.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't always have an explanation for those things, but usually what I've found is in retrospect, it was the right decision to
Yeah.
pause and see what emerges.
Yeah.
And I don't always get an answer. So I know there are
Yeah.
people that are listening that are like, oh my God, but what if I don't get anything? What if my intuition isn't talking to me? It's like building a muscle, right? So I say, like, start with something small that you can use intuition for.
Yeah.
Should I eat chocolate or not eat chocolate? Right? Like, and
Oh
the answer is always yes, but
no. Thank you.
always yes. But sometimes your body might be like, actually, no, that's
Yeah.
not what you should be doing right now.
Yeah.
So it's allowing your intuition to start coming to you in little baby
Yeah.
decisions. Don't start with the big stuff.
Yeah.
Don't start with, can I invest in this $5 million
Yeah.
dollar startup?
Yeah.
Right?
But it's
Like,
funny,
that's not the.
this 90-second reset, it is such a simple thing. And yet we've been so conditioned to see it as kind of woo-woo and dismiss it.
Mhm.
But for our listeners, the science is catching up on this stuff now, and it turns out that all those 1960s hippies that everybody laughed at had it right, on so many
What a
fronts. So
surprise. Yes.
I,
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
that. And
I think there's just so much that we can do in 90 seconds. And then what I started doing was I would set a timer or an alarm for every 2 hours. I would take a 90
Yeah.
second pause.
Nice.
It's like clear out the old
Yeah.
junk, do a reset.
Yeah.
And then, okay, another 2 hours go by,
Yeah.
90-second pause. And then I crunched the time down. So I was like, okay, if I can do this every 2 hours, maybe I can do it every hour.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to see what happened with my nervous system
Yeah.
when I was able to continue spending the time
Yeah.
to just hit the reset button
Yeah.
as many times as I could
Yeah.
during the day. And that allows us to really be guided by our soul
Yeah.
voice, which is like a very soft whisper
Yeah.
rather than the loud, abrasive, like, do this.
Yes.
This is the right answer.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think that, for anyone that is listening that is like, oh no, there's no way I can sit still for
Yeah.
30 minutes or 20 minutes. You can start in small
Yeah.
baby steps and it works. It works just as
Yeah.
well as the big
Yeah.
steps.
Well, and the
Yeah.
irony, I think so many people, and again, for our listeners, if you're sitting there going, I can't afford that time and to be distracted and pulled away from my work, but the irony is that the opposite is true because when you allow yourself those 90-second breaks,
Yeah.
you're going to have more clarity and ironically more productivity and more creative ideas to
Yes.
come back to the
Yes.
table. So you'll be more efficient and creative and productive.
And you're being distracted anyway,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
something is distracting you at
Yeah.
least once every hour, if not more
Absolutely.
than that.
That's true.
So,
That's so true. And if we can just circle back to this idea about intuition, because I know you distinguish between intuition and fear. So for our listeners who often second guess themselves, how can they reliably know which is which? Because I think sometimes the intuitions show up and learning when to trust them and when to recognize this is just fear speaking.
yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I had been thinking about this a lot because it's probably been about 3 years that I was on a call and it was a very masculine sales call
Yeah.
where the guy was trying to convince me to buy a $50,000 thing
Yeah.
and it for my business, not for
Yeah.
me. And if I hung up, that was it. That
Yeah.
deal was going away,
Yeah.
right? And like all this, the car salesman tactics, and I could hear it in his voice,
Yeah.
like it was just so cringe. And there was a part of me that was like, I don't know, this sounds like it could be a cool opportunity. Yet, had I paused and had I just
Yeah.
like now I won't make decisions like that because
Yeah.
I have learned from this mistake.
Yeah.
Very expensive
Yeah.
mistake. But I felt like something's not quite right. Like this offer is not quite right.
Yep.
And here I was just like, okay, okay, yeah, let's do it. It's fine. Let's just go for it. And dove in head first and ended up like within 6 months, that company folded, did
Wow.
not give refunds, just like totally did not
Yeah.
live up to their contract in any way. And it was such a moment of like, I thought it was my intuition
Yeah.
telling me to do it when it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I looked back on it and I said, how would I have known that that was not intuition, but rather fear? And in this case, it was the fear of missing out. It
Yeah.
was like, it was AI before AI was big. It was
Yeah.
all the things. It just sounded perfect,
Yeah.
right? Like on paper, this thing was awesome. And I remember what I felt like, which is I felt like there was a vice around my heart and it
Yeah.
was crunching in. And I was like, okay, so now I know
Yeah.
that for me, when that fear is present, it's like a crunchy feeling
Yeah.
rather than like a heart opening, heart
Yeah.
expansive feeling.
Nice. That's
And I noticed that like different clients have different feelings with it. So it's not like you all are not going to feel this way, right?
yeah.
Like one person might experience it very differently than someone else.
Yeah.
So what I say is like test it out. Test it out on the little things, right? Test it out with like, oh, should I eat gluten? I use food a lot because I feel like it's a really easy
Yeah.
because we're always making choices about our food,
Yeah.
right? Like we're always like, should I eat this or not? Should I drink the alcohol or not? Should I go to the gym or not, right? Like all the little decisions that we're making. It and try not to go into that decision with like, well, I should just do the quote unquote right thing,
Yeah.
because most of the time the right thing may not be what you need right now.
Yeah.
So be open to the possibility that it's something else. And I find that for most people, there's some sort of like contraction feeling and expansion feeling.
Yeah.
And the contraction is often fear, and expansion is often
Yeah.
intuition or guidance.
Yeah. Well, and that's like a signal, right? And I know you teach that the body holds business intelligence and that
Yes.
our physical signals will often reveal what our mind misses. So, like that's one example. What kinds of signals should we be paying attention to?
Oh, I love this question because our signals are often infinite. So even something as simple as joint pain, which in my mid 40s and
You look
for
great.
thank you, the people around me are often like, "Oh, it's just aging." And I'm like,
Oh,
"Absolutely not. I don't
yeah.
get joint pain. Like that's not a thing that I should be experiencing unless there's a reason for it."
Yeah.
So I think we often are ignoring our body's signals. The another one is we are, if you're having a cycle, you're getting a signal every single
Yeah.
month, right? So with every menstrual cycle, we have, oh, I get PMS starting like 10 days before my
Yeah.
cycle, and then I get pain 3 days before my cycle, and that continues till the day I bleed.
Yeah.
And then this happens, and then this happens. And usually, like most women can tell me that level of clarity.
Yeah.
But so they're observing what's happening, but there's not the interpretation of what's happening.
Hmm.
We're often stopping at the, well, this sucks,
Yeah.
right? Like this experience
Yeah.
sucks. How do I make it go away? And instead of making it go away, it's how do we go deeper into it? And people will often push back to me on that. They're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, go deeper? Like that sounds terrible. And I'm like, no, the way out is through.
Yeah.
The way out is not a blanket or a band-aid over it. It's through the pain.
Yeah.
So you have to go through the experience and really fully feel it in order to get to the other side.
Yeah.
And I very much believe that our menstrual cycle is the best and loudest signal as women, and we have it all the time
Yeah.
until perimenopause and menopause. But until that point, like we have our body is constantly
Yeah.
telling us, like, hey, I'm dysregulated. Something's out of whack.
Yeah.
Something's out of alignment. For me, that showed up. I was getting, so I had ex-husband that I was married to. A lot of that relationship and what was happening is actually what led me into my fertility work.
Okay.
But what I didn't realize until years later, because now I'm like reflecting back, like, what was going on? How did I miss this major thing about us and not wanting to have children with this man? And what I realized was I had ignored all of my menstrual signs.
Huh.
So I was getting migraines in every single
Yeah.
cycle.
Wow.
I was feeling there was like more blood clots, more just what Chinese medicine translation would be stagnation energy, stagnant. So
Yeah.
things were stuck. And that's how I felt in my relationship.
Yeah.
So in reflection, it's like, oh my God, it totally makes sense. But in the moment, I was like, what can I take? Right? How can I get out of this? How do I not experience this feeling? But now reflecting back, I have the information that, like, gosh, this was my body telling
Yeah.
me, oh,
Yeah.
this is like the really wrong relationship for you
Yeah.
to be in. And please don't continue on this
Yeah.
path. But I wasn't listening back then, right?
Yeah.
So it is often we do ignore what our body is saying, and it's we often can intellectualize it with,
Yes.
oh, I didn't get enough sleep, or I've been
Yeah.
traveling, or I'm getting older. That's the most common excuse, believe
Yeah.
it or not. I'm getting old. I'm like, you're
Well, we're so
30. You're not
conditioned, right,
old.
to hear that from the, because that's what we're taught. So
Yeah.
for those who aren't, I mean, I think you've given us many sort of valuable examples, but for those who maybe are not convinced yet, what shifts, like when a woman finally learns to, and not just women, frankly, but
Mhm.
particularly when a woman finally learns to trust her inner knowing, right, rather than outsourcing her decisions to experts or to others' expectations or to all the
Yeah.
external noise, what shifts can we expect?
I think the most instant shift is energy. So you suddenly feel like you have more energy. You're not
Yeah,
doing anything
nice.
different. You're not getting more sleep. You just have more energy. And
Yeah,
you're like, wait, where'd that come from?
yeah, nice.
So that is, I think that's a win. I love having
A
energy.
huge win.
So that's pretty important.
Yeah.
But I think the other piece is that when we start acting on the things that help address the root cause, if we want to call it that. So if we say, "Oh, you're getting PMS at this point and you're always bitchy towards your husband and you start screaming at him about the
Yeah.
dishes,"
Yeah.
what is it really about,
Yeah.
right? And we'll dial it back and say, oh, the PMS is actually the fact that you feel disconnected from him. It has nothing to do with the dishes.
Yeah.
You're feeling disconnected and you actually feel disconnected during this part of your cycle because your hormones have shifted.
Yeah.
So you being aware of that and then you asking for what you need and getting that cup filled
Yeah.
has you have a different relationship with your husband for the rest of that
Yeah.
cycle.
Nice.
So we start doing this in practice and we say, hey, this little PMS thing is different for everybody.
Yeah.
I think 1 in 8 in 10 women have PMS.
Yeah.
So it's not unusual that someone would be experiencing PMS, yet we feel like, oh, just take something for it,
Yeah.
like take birth
Ask
control,
it.
take
Yeah.
this aspirin, whatever.
Yeah.
And it isn't getting to the root of the problem. And
Yeah.
often it's your body's clearly telling you that this issue has to do with your husband. Every time it comes up,
Yeah.
it's your husband and or it's your boss and you're like walking around the office like, I'm gonna kill him, and it's like, oh, maybe you ought to look at what's happening there
Yeah.
instead of feeling like all of this pent up energy that you have to suppress because again we live in a culture that hasn't taught us to ask for what we need.
Yeah.
We don't have the capacity to express it in a way that isn't like, I'm going to kill
Yeah.
you, but instead being like, hey, when you do this thing, it's really frustrating for
Yeah.
me and this is not working for me. How do we make this work? And like really having those conversations, but it takes the reflection and
Yeah.
the indicator that our body is saying like, hey, this thing is out of alignment. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean you need to quit your job.
Yeah.
It means that there's something here that you're not listening to.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. My gosh, I could talk forever. I can't believe our time has gone so quick here, and you've given so many incredible nuggets to think about and beautifully easy to apply in our life. So I normally like to end by asking, what's one of the greatest mindset shifts that you've had in your life? And it doesn't have to be about this issue at all, Amatma. I mean, just any
Anything.
aha moment that's changed you.
Mindset shift. I think I would say the biggest mindset shift was around fertility, actually.
Huh.
And it was with my ex-husband when he wanted to have children. My body was like, absolutely
Yeah,
not
no.
doing this. Yep, no, thank you. And when I realized that, what came up for me was, oh my gosh, if I don't have children with him, I may never have children because our fertility like declines at
Yeah,
35. That's
yeah,
what they tell us. And when I realized that was not founded in truth
yeah.
and it's not founded in data and science and
Huh.
really anything, we just are telling women this
Yeah,
because that's what we think is true.
yeah,
And so when I realized that, and I said, hold on, if that's not true, if I even experiment with this idea that that may not be true, then what does that mean for anything else that I believe? And all the dominoes fell.
hmm.
Literally everything that I
Yeah,
had learned fell because of that one belief that if my fertility is going to drop off a cliff at 35, I will never have a child. And as soon as that shifted, everything else opened,
Yeah.
right? So I love this question because I think that sometimes our mindset and beliefs about things are what is keeping the dominoes in place.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
when you take that one thing away and everything just goes
Yes.
away, you're like, oh, what else can I make? What else can I build from
Yeah.
this? So yeah.
All of this opportunity that yeah.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it really like for me that's enabled me to leave the relationship that just wasn't working for a
Yeah.
very long time to meet the person that I is the love of my life. We have a child
Oh,
together now.
nice.
So it is none of that would have been possible
Yeah.
had I stayed stuck in this belief that
Yeah.
nothing was going to be hopeful after
Yeah.
35.
Oh,
So, yeah.
lovely. What a nice story. So where can people learn more about you?
The best place to hang out is Instagram at Holistic Fertility Doctor.
Okay, beautiful. And we'll make sure to put all the contact stuff in the show notes, so don't panic. And thank you so much, Amatma. What a great conversation. We'll have to have you back to continue it because there's so many more avenues we could have explored.
Oh, yeah. This
Thank
was so
you.
lovely. Thank you so much, Cindy.
And for our listeners, so much value from this episode. I often encourage people to come back and re-listen because I think you'll find there's layer on layer of stuff that'll apply in so many areas of your life. And also give the gift of sharing. Make sure you share this episode with other people in your life so that they can have this benefit as well and negotiate their best lives. And before we sign off, if this episode maybe lit a fire in you, if you recognize that you've been playing small and you want to negotiate something bigger in your life and in by leaning into your feminine, please check out my programs, whether it's the one-on-one programs and masterminds or in a powerful group or even online. I've got you covered. So tap into that feminine power of yours and start getting more of what you want and deserve without apology. And if you're in, head to artoffemininenegotiation.com to check it out. And if you haven't grabbed a copy of my book of the same name, make sure to grab that, The Art of Feminine Negotiation. And that's a wrap for this episode. And I invite you to now go renegotiate the life that maybe you thought you had to settle for. And remember that every moment is a negotiation. Whether you're negotiating with yourself or others, choose presence, choose power, choose purpose. And I like to think this isn't just a podcast, but a movement. And we're all part of something bigger, together redefining power, one conversation, one negotiation at a time. So join the movement and lead the change and lead with heart, negotiating like the powerful force of nature that you are by leaning into your feminine. And remember, feminine doesn't mean weak. It's unstoppable when we fully lean into it. So until next time, take care.